Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and if you've been listening to the podcast lately, you know my summer and my life right now has been terrible. I'm currently planning 3 parties for my dead wife, Ange, and it's just all surreal. First, I can't believe she's dead. I mean, what the fuck, man? This was not supposed to happen. And second, what was I thinking planning 3 different parties for her? I should have just done one, but even one is going to be way too much for me. I mean, anytime someone RSVPs or calls to say they can or can't come, it instantly makes me tear up, and I just can't make the tears stop. It's like everything around me is a reminder that Ange is gone. So just like when she was sick, my simple escape was to go walk my dog. Well, yesterday I took Chief on the normal route that we used to do, the one when Ange was alive and in the hospital and at homesick and whatever, the route that I usually took every single day. It was like a good 45-minute walk. And I haven't taken it since she passed. I just haven't done that one. So I did that again yesterday. And this time I get to this gas station where this guy, Big Dave, gives Chiefs treats every single day. And I get there, I'm expecting to see Big Dave and he's going to love Chief. And then I see a memorial outside and I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? And I walk in the gas station and I'm like, what happened? And they're like, Big Dave died. And I just break down crying in the gas station. I'm like, what? He's like, Big Dave had cancer and I guess it came back and he died. And yeah, it made me lose my shit. And I'm sure they were wondering why this guy's crying in the gas station. So I had to let them know what was going on in my end. And it sounds like they're having a memorial for Dave the same night I'm having a memorial for Ange. Theirs is at the Admiral Pub. Mine is next door at the Admiral Benbow. And I'm definitely going to step out and go around the corner, get a beer at the Admiral Pub to celebrate Dave because he really loved Chief. Ange really loved Chief. And man, they would have just loved on Chief together if they knew each other. So I don't know. I'm going to go have a beer for Dave and then go back and have many more for Ange. I wish I knew that dude was sick. I would have made sure Chief and I went there every day just to make his life a little bit better. But anyways, that's Dave. Ange is the one I really care about. And if you're in Seattle, I hope to see you at the Admiral Benbow on Saturday, the 23rd of August. That's this Saturday. It's going to be a great mix of people from all different circles of Ange's life. If you're in the snow industry, if you know me, if you're in the Alki community, if you're in the PTA, if you're anywhere in this area, you probably knew of Ange, and I hope to see you at this party. I'll be disappointed if you don't go, and I'll probably be pretty sad at the party. I'll be the guy crying in the corner, but don't worry about that. That's enough sad stuff. The kind of stuff that drives you to drinking. But this podcast will drive you to see the light. And what is the light? Well, it's been my favorite beverage for the past decade, and that's NA beer. And Best Day is the beer I'm talking about. They sponsor the show. You've heard about it a lot. And I have 2 guests on the show this week. The first is Tate Huffard, the founder, owner, CEO of Best Day Brewing. And he's a one-time finance guy who had this vision of what NA beer could be. And now he's killing it with Best Day. Speaking of killing it, Shaun Murray has been a pro wakeboarder with a pro model for the past 30 years. Just think about that. Just think about that. 30 years. That's absolutely crazy. And I caught up with Shaun and Tate before their big Best Day event at Seafair. Before we get into the podcast, I want to thank you not only for listening, but for all the messages and love that you've been sending me. While I always get emotional reading them, it has been helpful during this terrible time. So thank you for that. Also, thank you for listening and telling your friends about the show. I'm only going to ask you to do one thing in this intro, and that's please listen to my sponsor ads and buy their products. I only work with the best brands in the business, and they are Elan Skis, Stanley, Outdoor Research, Best Day Brewing, and Liquid Force. Now, I'm going to tell you one more time that if you're in Seattle or close, and you know me or knew Ange, you better be at the Admiral Benbow on Saturday. It is going to be a party for the ages, and I hope to see you there. Now it's time to talk with Tate Huffard and Shaun Murray. We are here in Seattle for a Best Day event at Seafair. It's one of the biggest events we have all year in Seattle. I am sitting here with Tate Huffard, and Tate is the founder of Best Day Brewing. And you were telling me that last night you were in San Francisco with Phil Lesh and his son, and there was a Grateful Dead Best Day thing that I know nothing about. What happened?
Well, unfortunately, Phil Lesh wasn't there, but his son put on the show, the tribute for the 60th anniversary of Grateful Dead. And we did a collaboration beer because he's a big fan of Best Day. So this whole thing got spun up and Yeah, it's pretty fun, man. Good place for some NA beers. No doubt about that.
So did the can have like dead imagery?
Oh, yeah. We did a whole special edition can. It's pretty cool.
Oh, man, that is really, really cool. And I first met you probably 5 or 6 years ago at the Pain McShlonkey.
Yeah.
And listeners who have heard this podcast for a long time know that I, a long time ago, had an alcohol beer that used to sponsor the podcast for like 6, 7 years. And then I transitioned into an NA beer. But when I met you, I had a beer that was paying me that was alcohol infused. And I wasn't even a total believer in the NA market. And I was telling you when we first came around, like, man, after that year, my whole attitude towards the NA market changed. And now I fire down NA beers more than I do regular beers. But did you look at me when we were talking that first time as like, who is this clown clowning my product?
I think you were looking at me like I was the clown taking out perfectly good alcohol from beer. But yeah, so what changed? What did it for you?
You know, probably a lot of things. One was just being able to stay out all night. I drink really fast. And when I drink 6 beers, I'm ready to go home. But when I mix best days in there and I have 10 drinks in the night, I can stay out till 2 in the morning and have a better night. And that really has helped me. And then there's a lot of times where I just want a beer and I've got to take my kids somewhere or a bunch of other things. And it's like, I'm 51 now, you know, when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I mean, the older I get, the more I feel the hangovers. And I'm sure I know you have the exact same experience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, right? I've been at this for a long time. And, you know, when I first started telling people, you know, this crazy idea to do like good craft non-alcoholic beers, they look at me like I had 8 heads.
Right.
And like, boy, has times changed, right? And like, it's really cool to see how, you know, whether you're sober or Cali sober or still drinking, everyone's on board and everyone's having a good time.
You know, everyone's on board, everyone's having a good time. And when I look at the different segments of the market, because there's me that's 50 plus that doesn't want the hangover anymore and wants to be able to do whatever I want to do without being slowed down. Then there's like the 30 and 40-year-olds who are kind of getting into that. They're like, man, we sent it in our 20s and we're ready to kind of slow down. But now you see that like the kids in their 20s, they're even starting to drink NA stuff. And to me, that's like the interesting thing is, were they brought up in breweries by their parents and they're just like, I don't want to do anything my parents did and they're drinking NA beer? Or have you kind of looked at that market and wondered why?
Yeah, every time I think I understand the Gen Z crowd, I don't. I think what is really clear is this is happening across every single demographic. And I think that what's going on is, you know, when you think about and this is how I got into the category, right? It wasn't because I went sober. It's just because I stumbled into, you know, this concept of non-alcoholic beer through my father-in-law. When I was just realizing like, you know, the hangover started stinging more. I wanted to wake up and go surfing. I wanted to like keep doing all the things without having a massive hangover to deal with.
Sure.
And so, you know, I stumbled into it because he would bring over a 6-pack of O'Doul's and I was like, man, this shit is terrible. And like, that was the light bulb moment for me. Just like seeing it next to the beers that I love drinking, right? Which might have 4% or 9%, whatever. But whether you're drinking 4% or 9% beer, you want a great beer and you want a cool brand, right? You want brand and product. Like that's what makes CPG. Right. And seeing it next to the O'Doul's where you're sacrificing both those things, I was like, well, shit, like if we could make a great tasting craft beer that happened to have no alcohol in it, there's a really cool story to tell behind that. It is not about sobriety. It's just about lifestyle. Yeah. And you let people choose whatever they want. And so that's been the differentiating factor with Best Day versus all of these other brands, whether they're new or old. We have never come at it from the standpoint of sobriety. We just come at it from the standpoint of really, really good beer.
Okay. And in terms of the whole market, where we're seeing it across all categories here, is this something that's happening in Europe and other markets as well, where everybody's doing this?
Yeah, we're actually playing catch up here. In Europe, as a percent of total beer, it's much bigger.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But we're catching up quickly, and it's the only category in alcohol and beer that's growing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in terms of categories in the CPG area, you've got the energy drinks from the early 2000s, and then like kombucha had a big surge in, you know, the 2010s. But other than that, this is the biggest thing that's happened to that category in a long time, right?
Definitely. And I think we're still in the early innings. I mean, when you think about going to your local grocery store, they might not have it yet, right? And it's just coming. But things are moving really quickly. And the more that we do, we're pushing into snow sports, we're pushing into water sports, we're, as I said at the top of the show, we're doing a lot in music now. All these places where, I'll just speak about me personally, like those are spots where I really enjoy a beer, right? Like you think about parking lot beers after surfing, après ski, during skiing, at a live music show, whatever it is, like those are beer moments. That's what beer has always been for me. It's just like a way to get buddies together. It's a way to get people together, have a good time. And what you realize is like, you're not necessarily always in it for the alcohol. As a matter of fact, more times than not, you're just in it for the ritual, right? It's just like cracking open a beer. Fulfilling those moments with the best day goes a long way.
Yeah, man, it's an amazing thing that you're doing, and it's pretty stoked on it. And we're going to go back to the beginning, because with a lot of my podcasts, I have skiers and snowboarders that go to these elite academies where they learn how to ski and race, and they go on to like world championship careers. You went to the most elite academy possible, I feel like. Was it Deerfield Academy?
Yeah.
And so when you go to a school like that, which is a lot of elite people, I mean, you're probably one of the smartest people I've had on the podcast based on your pedigree, which is pretty cool. But when you go to Deerfield, do you go to school with some people that go be pro athletes and other people that go change the world? And you're the beer guy out of that group?
Yeah. I didn't even know I was going to be the beer guy. I mean, it's funny because like when you think about what started Best Day, what got me on this journey of starting a company, you could really rewind the clock and like go deep on it. I mean, where I grew up, everyone was pretty much on this like track for working in New York in finance.
Like Wall Street, right? Like-
Yeah. And, I lasted about 7 months. And one day I was just like, you put on your tie and you get going to work. And I was like, nope, not for me.
But I mean, because you went to Brown too.
Yeah.
So your education is really fantastic. So you get that job right out of college. Is it something where you're making like $200,000 a year, but you're working 70 hours a week and you can spend it at the bars for the 3 hours you have at night? Then you wake up at 6 a.m. and do it again?
Yeah, I wasn't making that much money and I was working more hours. But yeah, the math was basically the same. And I was like, no, this isn't for me. And I had some buddies who were living out in the Bay Area and I had never been out there. And I was just looking, they were working their asses off too, but then they were surfing and they were going up to Tahoe and they were having a great time. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So I moved out to California. I was like living in a closet and, just started on this path of like working at startups and eventually stumbled into this whole NA beer thing. I mean, after 10 years of working in startups, I was like, no, this is going to be mine because I think this is going to be a big thing.
Well, when you started working in startups, you came out and you got a job as like an account executive. But within a year, you're like the director of biz development. So that whole education.
You do your homework, man.
That's what I'm supposed to do with this podcast, right? So you're smarter than everybody else. When you move out west, you have a plan. I'm going to go in on the bottom level, but you jump up really quick and then you get this great job. Then you move to another brand. You start middle of the pack. Then you go run that company as well. American Giant, I think that was.
Yeah.
And so are you just stacking money at American Giant and tinkering in the beer world? Or how does that work?
Yeah, not stacking money, but I think the thing that will resonate with you and like a lot of the people, the athletes that you talk about is like, why do you do this thing? Like what keeps you going? And the thing that I loved about startups and still do is like, there is such a team energy, right? And it's like, you want to build something for like an ambition that is like way, way beyond what normalcy looks like. Right. And athletes, that I think that's like the definition of an athlete, right? It's like you've got a quest that you're on. And
they're on a selfish quest and you're on a team selfish quest. So you had this all-in moment where you're like, you have to go all in on this thing. And thank God you did. We kind of had a little recording snafu. So we missed about a minute of the podcast, but I'm trying to fill it in where you were saying that, yeah, you had this all-in moment. It was scary. And I came back with, it was scary. You had 2 kids, you had a wife. We're going into this pandemic. The whole world is uncertain. You have a great job. And like, do you tell your wife 2 months before, like, hey, I'm really going to quit my job? And does she back you? Or what does that look like as a family? Because that's a huge leap.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge leap. The fact that she got behind me on it is, as I look back, is like, it's everything. It's the reason why we're doing it. Because it was, there was a lot of uncertainty. The one thing I will say, though, is like a lot of other people during the pandemic, like I definitely pushed the outer reaches of like, let's say my relationship with alcohol, exploring the scotches and exploring all the red wines of the world and exploring like a lot of beer. And because that's what we were doing, right? It was like we were just hanging out at home, nowhere to go, doing a lot of drinking.
Especially in the first 6 months.
Yes, man. Yes. Like that was a wild time. And I think when I came out of that, one, there's just like, oh, that was a lot of drinking. Like I should probably do less. Then at the same time, like I wanted to hang out with people. And that was like, okay, beer's always the reason, like beer gets people congregate over beer. Like you hang out and like, that was like an initial bounce back. Like, how do we get more people together? And so I had the feeling like, okay, people are going to want to get together more. And then the last part is like, people just want to like take care of themselves after going through a pandemic where you're like, shit, like that was heavy. And I think, all those things combined kind of reinforce that like, okay, like I have this idea and now for a whole variety of other reasons, like it's only more validated. Like this is going to be a thing.
So you have the idea, but how do you take that idea and make that vision something of a reality? I mean, I would think you've got to staff up and hire a whole bunch of people. You've got to raise a ton of money because I would think you might have some money saved up, but it's not like you have money to pay 10 people, develop a can, develop a brand, and do all of those things. So do you have to raise $10 million on your own to start out with?
Yeah. I mean, it was like hit go on all of it and like push on all fronts. Like, how do we make the beer? How do we scale up the beer? How do we hire a team? How do we get distribution? How do we get it in retail? How do we raise money?
Because you're not a beer or a product guy. You're
I've never brewed a beer in my life.
You can do the spreadsheet and know exactly where you're making money.
But the cool part about why all this stuff came together and why we've been able to move as quickly as we have, it's because people really understood it, right? They finally saw that like, oh yeah, this is going to be a thing. And, like you said, like every demographic is drinking less for a variety of different reasons, but like it's going to be a thing. And Best Day has always had a very, very unique point of view about that. And as a result, like our ambitions have been big. Like we are the brand that's going to be the voice and the emblem of this tectonic shift in consumer behavior. And because we're not about sobriety, right? We're not about preachiness. We're not about any of the things that have made non-alcoholic beer so unattractive for so long. We're just about great beer and a really fucking cool lifestyle. And, the thing that we've tried to build into this from the beginning is this idea of best day yet, right? This feeling of like, and that's a saying that I've always lived by in my life. And I was like, when I was coming up with the idea for like, what does this brand look like? It just made so much sense that like, that's the reason why you drink non-alcoholic beer, because best day yet, right? And whether you're a skier or a surfer or a mom or a dad or a musician or an artist or whatever, everyone's got their own reason, or everyone's got their own like feeling of what that is. Like it clicks with them. Best day yet. Oh, okay. Like that makes sense, right? Yeah. So, we've always said like, well, that's the reason why people drink non-alcoholic beer. Like we need to go tell that message, not to Sausalito's local non-alcoholic craft beer scene, but to the nation, right? And we got to be on ski mountains. We got to be at the coast. We got to be on lakes. We got to be everywhere in between because it's a message that needs to get told.
And when you're trying to tell that message, I would think distribution is the key to getting everywhere that you want to be. And the difference between you and a guy at AB is that their distribution will put them anywhere in the world at like the touch of a button, where you have to fight to be in every door that you're in. And is it like every time you win a door, is it like a huge celebration? The Best Day doors, like, holy shit, we're there now.
I mean, it's amazing, right? It's still, I get so fired up when this happens, but like, I remember the first account we ever brought, and that was such a win. Like I literally like delivered the beer out of the back of my car, and like that was such a win, that first account. But I still get so fired up when we have wins like across the country, and they're coming quick now, which is really exciting.
When you think about wins and losses, what's the biggest mistake you made early on that you kind of learned from?
Oh, God. Well, there have been a lot. Luckily, none of them have sunk the ship.
Sure.
But, we have had all sorts of, let's call them learnings. On the product side, we've had, like, I think every other brewery in the world, our fair share of batches of beer that all of a sudden they go, right? Just like exploding.
No, I did. Like your vat explodes?
No, the cans. The cans, but
like freezing, like when you're shipping in the
freezing
cold.
Or heat or whatever it is. Yeah. And, luckily those don't make it out in the market. And you're kind of like, oh shit, we just dodged a bullet there. But, those are humbling experiences, but we're trying to move really quickly. And when you try to move really quickly, like, you got to be able to learn from your mistakes pretty quickly. Yeah, I'm sure there's a book that I could write about the mistakes that we made along the way.
And then what's the most unexpected place that you've seen Best Day, where either you're flipping through the channels and you see it and you're like, holy shit, there we are.
Yeah. Well, we've been on Alaska Airlines. So, that was really cool. I don't know how many other brands at that stage of their life have been on an airplane. But for me, like, sitting down on an airplane and, those little cards that are in the back of the seat in front of you and seeing your can on that was like a pinch me kind of moment.
I mean, this is personal to you. This is your brand and your baby. And it's like, when you might as well be your face there, because it's like everything that you do is going to be reflected in that can. Yeah. So I would think that you're putting everything into it. So that's pretty amazing to see. And then you moved west because of work-life balance. It was like you hit a breaking point in New York City. And then you get to this place where you've got this startup beer brand that's a national beer brand now. I think, are you everywhere? We're pretty close to it.
Yeah, 45 states now.
Yeah, so almost everywhere. And I would think when you have the growth that you have, that maybe great work-life balance that you're seeking might not be as easy to achieve because you're so busy with your success. Has that been a problem of like catch-22 of like, man, I made it, but I didn't want to make it like this because I wanted to surf more?
Yeah, or you just have to wake up earlier to go surfing. But, it's not always in perfect balance. Like, it has definitely been an intense period of work. I've also, we've had 2 more kids. So I got 4 little guys that are 4 under 6.5 now. Jesus. So we got it. We got kids coming out of our ears. So, but it's all right. It's all good. It's so much fun to be with the kids, but like my priorities just change. And like, now I'll wake up early and like go for a trail run with my dog. And like, that's about all that I need. Like, it's amazing. And then I come home and get to be with the kids. And then, so it's work-life balance. It's just constantly changing and evolving.
Man, all I can think about is in 5 years, you're going to take your family to go skiing and it's going to cost you like $1,200 to walk on the mountain.
Tell me about that. I've already had those nightmares. Yeah, we're living that. It's crazy.
Yeah, you got like a team almost. So in a few minutes, we're going to talk to one of your athletes, Shaun Murray, who's got a big event here this weekend. It's a Best Day big event. Best Day, Can You Ride It? Yeah. What's this event to you all about? Like, what are you expecting to see?
I hate to sound corny, but like, this is such a Best Day Yet event. And like every time that we think about this brand, especially coming to life in person, it's like, well, how is this like a Best Day Yet thing? And it's so cool to think about this whole thing and like the evolution coming from idea, like all the way to, seeing, these guys rock tomorrow. Yeah, it's the brand coming to life, and that's really special.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun here. Before we talk to Shaun, I know that when you own a brand like yourself, or you're the founder of a brand, I guess, are you the owner? Is it like a sole thing where you are the top of the pyramid? Yeah, founder, owner, CEO, whatever you want to call yourself. You are the top of the pyramid. And that's pretty cool because all of the stuff that you guys have put out are kind of things that you like, which is pretty rad. But when you're the top of the pyramid, you get a lot of opportunities. One was being with Phil Lesh's son the other night in San Francisco, which is like incredible. What are some other opportunities that are once in a lifetime that you wouldn't have had without Best Day?
Oh my God. Well, doing a podcast, like I don't think anyone would invite me on to be a podcast.
You've been on a podcast before.
Best Day, but like, you asked about where we've seen product, and I think the fact that, I've created this brand and it's now at a scale where people want to be a part of it, and they want to, whether it's hear my story, or try the beer, or, go to the event. For me, like just the fact that people are engaging with it and I can see it out in the wild is like the most special thing I could ever describe. It's so cool. It's totally surreal.
Yeah. I mean, with Best Day, you've become bigger than yourself. It's not you, obviously, but it's like,
no, I know, but that's the point,
Yeah.
right? And that's the coolest part, that like, this kind of mantra, this ethos that I've kind of tried to live my life by, like this best day yet idea is now something that's like way bigger, right? And we're telling a cool story and people like it, right? It's like, why not live your life that way?
Yeah.
It's like this glass half full, optimistic, and it's fun.
Well, it's an awesome thing. I will say that you are living the American dream. You moved out west for a better life. You created a brand and an awesome culture around that. And you're in a market that's only getting bigger and bigger. And you're right up there at the top of that market. So it's going to be incredible to see where Best Day goes. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your support. And I thank you for being on the podcast and telling your story.
Anytime. Thank you.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start out with Liquid Force. And not only are they back supporting the podcast, but this summer, they're bringing back the most important party and event in wakeboarding. That's right, Brostock is back, and the contest features the best riders in the world. But you know what's more fun than watching the pros ride? Riding with them. And you can ride with the Liquid Force pros like Daniel Grant, Claudia Pagini, and Gunther Oka at a local lake or cable park near you at their Ride with the Pro Tour. And while Liquid Force is doing all these great things to build community on the water, they're also on the forefront of product innovation. And if you're a foil frother, you're going to want to check out the new FuseLock foil system. Wake surfers are going to love the all-new Ace and Synchro offerings. And the 2025 line features fresh boards, rad graphics, and more comp vest colorways than ever before. Park to boat to foil, Liquid Force has gear for every rider type, whether it's boat, cable, foil, or surf. To find out more about the events and the products, head on over to liquidforce.com. And when you see something you like, put it in your cart, and when you check out, enter the code POWELL15, that's all caps with no spaces, and you will save 15% off your order. Liquid Force, feel the pull. Next up, it's Elan Skis. And Elan doesn't need to support this podcast in the summertime. I've said that every summer. But they do it because they understand the importance of cultivating the stories that make the snow industry what it is. But if you haven't noticed, while they've always been big in Europe, Elan has built a growing cult following here in the States. It all started with the still thriving ripstick revolution that made skiing easier and more fun for anyone that tried them. That same idea, easier and more fun, is what they delivered to their Playmaker series of twin tips. How does Elan deliver a better ski experience? Well, it's all about using the best materials known to man. And that's no joke. This is the same Elan that's known for building award-winning luxury yachts. So they never cut corners. And the fit and finish is better than anything else on the ski wall. Seriously, if you pick one up and you look at the edges and you see those seams of glue on all the different skis, look at Elan's and you're going to see a seamless pairing because they do take that additional time to pay that attention to detail. And it's awesome. And it makes everyone feel like they're making pro-level turns. And that's what skiing is all about, that feeling. So remember, before you buy your next pair of skis, demo a pair of Elan's, or just head on over to elanskis.com, pick a pair, and elevate your skiing experience. My final sponsor this round is Best Day Brewing. And while I love the taste of a good beer, I don't always need the alcohol. I mean, my life revolves around driving my kid places, running errands, interviewing people, managing my family, and all of these things I do better when I don't have a head full of alcohol. That's where Best Day comes in. These days, if I'm not partying, I'm still having beers, and those beers are from the award-winning Best Day Brewery. And there are a lot of NA beers out there right now, but none taste as good as Best Day. I love the hazy IPA, the Kolsch that you can get on all Alaska airline flights, and everyone seems to like the Electro Lime Cerveza. I could go on and on as they have so many flavors, and I love them all. The beauty of Best Day is that they average about 60 calories and they won't get you in trouble. And pro tip, if you're partying, try to mix in a Best Day for every alcoholic beverage you have, and it will extend your night. It does it for me, and it keeps me from doing anything stupid. To have your best day or night ever, head on over to bestdaybrewing.com. If you make that order over $50, we'll also throw in free shipping. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. Check, check. Let's hear you talk.
1, 2, check. So here we are. It's 3:32 and we're getting ready to go live.
All right. He sounds like he could be an MC right there. We are here with Shaun Murray, and we're here for Seafair. And Shaun, we have the Best Day Can You Ride It event. Can you describe what this event is?
this is taking what's been happening in my backyard since I was a kid into the masses, because I've always enjoyed being behind the boat, especially when it's sometimes you're not on something that's meant to be ridden. Like you're riding things that you're like, I wonder if I could ride that. That thing is not meant to be on the water. And let's see if I can get up and ride it. One of the first things I ever rode as a kid was the throwable cushion. It's like that square cushion you're supposed to have legally on every boat.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if I could ride that. And I remember trying to get up and ride it like a kneeboard, and I did. And I was like, game on.
So when you were younger, I mean, it's you, your brothers, you're on a lake in Missouri. It's by the time you're 11, you're in California before that. And people don't even need to know that right now. But were you guys tinkering with early products, like taking wakeboards and cutting them and kind of just doing different things just to find out how different things rode in the water?
For sure. In fact, I just remember going into our garage and looking for things that weren't supposed to be on the water.
Okay.
Like literally just like, how about that thing? Well, what about that thing? And then we would maybe take wood and cut it into different shapes. And sometimes we would attach bindings to them. Most of the time we wouldn't. And you sometimes will start in the water. Sometimes you'll start on a dock and slide off. So you kind of adapt to whatever. So that's what's happening here. But for the best day, can you ride it? They've wanted to take it bigger. So it's not just a piece of plywood. Like people are building crafts for this.
Okay. And it's like, who can ride these crafts the best? Will you be a judge?
You know, I don't know exactly. I'm going to be on shore at some point. Hopefully I'm going to get in the water, but I'm going to be on shore kind of quarterbacking and helping people and making some calls of who goes when and letting them know what they're on. And so it'll be a mix between like a judging, MC, possible rider. So I've got a lot of different hats tomorrow.
Okay. And when you were doing this as a kid, when you have no fear whatsoever and you're like 10, 12 years old and you're riding all these different things, like what's the worst thing you took to the face?
There was a couple that didn't go so well. I got up, and it was actually one was kind of recently, and I was wearing this lawn chair on my back that I was going to get up on. And as we were going, like I had a fall and it hit me in the back of the head. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Ended up getting up on it in a different way. Totally worked. One of the scariest was a coffee table. Okay. And it was a big, heavy coffee table upside down. So the legs are up in the air. The whole edge is exposed. And that one felt like I was going to get tangled in the worst, but I didn't. It actually went okay, but it was way heavy, like way heavy. And that's the trick. I'm a little concerned with how heavy people are going to make these things tomorrow.
Because the buoyancy is very important here, right?
You know, buoyancy helps, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
In fact, okay, think of it. It essentially just needs to be able to plane, meaning just like be on the surface.
Like having a spoon nose is the key.
Kinda. It helps. It helps. There's a lot of things that can help, but they're not necessary. So for instance, there was a cutting board that my wife threw away in the garbage, and I was throwing some things away in the trash. And I looked, I'm like, there's a cutting board that looks kind of good, but I guess she threw it away because we had a new one or something. So I grabbed that out of the trash and I got up on it behind the boat. And this is a little tiny cutting board. And so that's completely flat, and it kind of bends the rules on what you think might work. But it just shows that you can kind of make a lot of things. Like I'm looking at this shelf right here. I could ride that.
The thing is, you're not like this spring chicken. You're what, like 48?
49.
49 years old.
Yeah.
So you're still thinking like a 15-year-old, like I can ride that shelf right there and I can ride the cutting board in the trash. And is it just being out on the water your whole life and just being around young people? Is that what's kept you so young?
I like to stay active. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying that we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think it's really true because I'm the middle of three brothers, and we've always just ridden things, action sports, traditional sports, grew up snow skiing, like Mammoth and June out in California.
Ask about that, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
And so like we were always doing something, whether it was the wintertime, the summertime. But I do think one of the keys to longevity is keep moving, stay active. And so, yeah, I want to stay on the water. And if I can encourage people to do the same, like that's the goal of my content creation. So I've moved from like competitive wakeboarding into the content creation side of things. Yep. And what I want to do is I want people to go out and feel inspired to stay active and try challenges themselves.
Well, your job at this point isn't to drop like the gnarliest thing in the world anymore. I mean, you're 49 years old. You're to get people fired up to want to sell product, you know? The kids who are doing those gnarly tricks, they speak to 1% of the market. You speak to the other 99% of the market, right?
I do. I absolutely want to keep things relatable.
Yeah.
I like teaching people. And I can tell you from my personal experience and from teaching people, you don't have to learn the biggest, fanciest, hardest, most impressive trick to have a good, fun moment, an enjoyable moment yourself. Sure. It just has to be something that's maybe a little bit new. And honestly, most people skip over all of those low-hanging fruit tricks, things that are like a surface 180 going really slowly. And a lot of the things that people are like, well, I don't know how, or I don't think I should. No, go for those simple things, because it doesn't matter how simple something may seem. When you learn something that's different for you, it's fun.
Yeah. And it's like the fundamentals you can kind of build up
100%.
everything as you kind of grow.
100%.
You mentioned snow skiing, and I'm sure eventually does that turn into snowboarding?
Yeah. In fact, the first time I got on a snowboard, I was probably like 18, but I started on snow skis when I was about 2.5.
Okay. So was you pretty passionate about it? Did you guys go a lot?
We would go every year, Big Bear, Mammoth, June, sometimes Tahoe. And then when the snowboard came around, I was like, okay, that kind of translated, because at that time I was becoming a professional wakeboarder.
Okay. So it was right around like when you were in college almost? Or
Yeah, exactly.
So because you're older, so you're right. I mean, you're my age. So when I say you're older, I'm older than you. So you're not that old.
No, but that was like around 94, 95. Snowboarding's really starting to come around. And that's when I first got on it. But I still get back on skis. Like, I don't own skis now. If I go get on them, I'm just going to rent them.
Okay.
But I'm probably going to get some soon.
Okay. Well, if you ever need skis, you let me know. We can get you some skis.
Oh, sick.
Thinking that you were this super famous pro wakeboarder for the past 30 years and people in the wake world, everyone knows your name, that creates a ton of opportunities for you to travel with other action sports athletes. And we talk about snowboarding. And when you're really good at wakeboarding, it's probably fun to go snowboarding where you're not as good and you're challenging yourself a little bit more. And do you kind of have snowboard heroes where you kind of look at people's style and you're like, dude, I love the way that guy rides?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, going back years ago, Jamie Lynn always had the best method.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
He's from right around here.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my buddy had his LibTech board back in the day.
Yeah, they're here too.
Yeah. And gosh, there's so many like inspirational snowboarders, getting to know guys. I met Sean Palmer, but Travis Rice, he's always just quality, like, some of the things that he produces. But man, you know who I ran across at a young age when he was wakeboarding, skateboarding, snowboarding, was Shaun White. Oh no, I didn't know he wakeboarded. Yeah, he did a little bit, and we would do this event where we would wakeboard and snowboard and compete in kind of both categories. Okay. And I remember just seeing him at a young age. He was already ripping on like a wakeboard as a young kid. But it's crazy even for you, because you're a big name athlete, but knowing that kid as a little kid and then just seeing where he transcends all action sports. I mean, there's Tony Hawk, and I'll ask you in a minute about a Tony Hawk story, but what's your best Shaun White story first? Gosh, getting to kind of hang out at, it was called E3. And that was video game stuff? Yeah, the video game convention center. And so back when I had a video game, it was on the same platform that Tony Hawk, and that's where I met Sean Palmer, Matt Hoffman, Kelly Slater. Oh, they all had games. Yeah. And so I'm literally sitting at an autograph table with all of these, looking at those guys going, what am I doing here? You're royalty. I did not feel, I felt like the oddball, like, don't go along with this. And at that time, Activision brought in a half pipe into the show. Okay. And two stories from that one. I mean, I had countless stories because that was surreal. But that was where I'm hanging out with Shaun White, and he was still pretty young, but he was skateboarding there. And the kid, I'm like, I just remember him not that long ago wakeboarding. And here he is busting airs out of the half pipe. And the kid is crushing it on the snowboard, and just getting to hang out with him there, and just like a really nice down to earth kid. On that same, what they did is they had a basketball video game with the and one players. Oh yeah, like the professor. Exactly. Yeah. And I got to play basketball with him. And I did this move where I act like I'm going to drop kick the ball, and kind of like did this thing, and he ducked out of the way. And I fully got him. Totally did. And he was like, I'm going to use that move. Like, it was pretty cool. Nice. What's the white guy's name? White Chocolate? Was that his name? Yeah. Yep. He wasn't at that show, but the professor was there. Another guy, man. But yeah, that was surreal. And then Tony Hawk, we have to ask, because you probably have a Tony Hawk story. What's your Tony Hawk story? Well, I wish it wasn't so embarrassing, but it slightly is. That's good. But let's bring it on. So back in my early days, I was wakeboarding in Mission Bay. Okay. I had already moved away from California, but they had brought me back there to do like this day on the water, and it's with Tony Hawk. And so I went out there and I did some riding and, doing flips. And at the time, like, I was competing and had like a national title at the time. And so I could wakeboard. So I thought that I kind of, like, made an impression in some way. And so we hung out, and he was cool. He got behind the boat. I think did some surfing, maybe a little bit of wakeboarding. And then we go to, I think this was either at the X Games or Gravity Games. I competed at like both those back in the day. And I remember I was getting into the elevator, and Tony and I think like his wife or somebody, he was in there with a buddy or somebody he knew. And so I went into there, and I kind of like thought maybe he would recognize me. but didn't really say much. I was like, hey, Tony, how's it going, man? And he's like, good, it's nice to meet you. And I said, well, actually, we met out in San Diego. He goes, like out on the boat? And I go, yeah, we're out on the boat. And he goes, do you drive boats there? Or I was like, no, I'm a professional wakeboarder. At that moment, the door opened and like he went off. I was like, all right, see you later.
Sweet. Tony Hawk knows who I am.
So then it was about 2 or 3, I don't know, about 3 years later or so. Then we had the video game come out and I got to like hang out with him. And play him one-on-one in his game and then in my game. And he told me that his kids like love playing the wakeboard game and stuff. So I was like, that felt pretty cool. A little bit of redemption.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Is there anybody else that you've met over the years that you've gotten starstruck around? Not that you were starstruck.
Yeah, you want to know a crazy one?
Yeah.
One that a lot of people may not even know. I mean, a lot of people might know. You're going to know. You know Geraldo?
Yeah, Rivera.
Totally, right? Yeah. So this is back during it was a trial that was going on in Orlando. There's big news, right? And so he was there with this attorney his name Jose Baez. And I'll spare you all the details, but what happens, he was at an Einstein Bagels and we were with my buddy and we walk in and I'm like, that's Geraldo. Surprising thing, he's actually shorter than me and I'm pretty short.
Huh, I think he was big.
Same thing. But people say that to me when they meet me.
Okay.
They're like, oh, you're short, I thought. So my buddy is like, you got to get a picture with him. I'm like, okay. So it took extra long to eat to wait for him to leave. And he goes out into the parking lot and some employee comes out the back door to get a photo. I'm like, man, I got foiled from that. So we're standing behind him while he's taking the photo. And I'm sitting there waiting kind of for my opportunity. And so he goes and walks in between the cars. And it happens to be my truck parked next to Jose Baez, the attorney guy's vehicle. It's like a BMW or something. So my driver door is against his passenger door. The reason I say that is because as he turns around and finishes this photo and he starts to walk to the vehicle and he opens his door and he turns and looks at me and I'm standing right there and I'm like, this is the moment. He goes, do you need anything? And I'm like, no, I just need to get in my truck.
Oh no.
And I totally I just bailed out. So I get into my vehicle. My buddy's like, you suck. You wuss, dude. You totally wussed out. And I was like, man, I'm fine. So yes, Geraldo definitely flustered me.
Oh, that is so amazing.
I can't go without saying your shirt, Andre the Giant.
You met him?
Yes, but it changed my life.
How?
So I grew up fan of WWF, right?
Yeah, me too.
And I had the ring, I had the Junkyard Dog and Rowdy Piper, all the little rubber figurines, right?
Yeah, come in my hands.
You still have them?
Yeah, I've got the Ultimate Warrior and some other one. I'll send you a picture. Yeah.
No way. That's sick.
And this is from 1979, and I just had it made. I found it in a box at my house that I lost like 20 years ago. So this is like real authentic vintage.
Okay, so you guys are listening. He's wearing an Andre the Giant shirt. He's a wrestler, and he's got 2 guys under his arms. And he's one of the most recognizable human beings to ever walk the earth, right? Yeah. Like, you can't miss him. So when I think I was about 13 years old, and we're walking through the airport, my brother and I, my older brother. And so we're walking through the airport and he has his back to us. And even with his back to us, you know exactly who it is. Yeah. Right? You can't miss him. And so my brother goes up and he taps him on the shoulder and he says, excuse me, can I have an autograph? And Andre turns around and yells at my brother, just give me a minute. Why can't you guys just leave me alone? Give me a minute. Like, it was this moment that just kind of crushed him. But I understood, like, he was so recognizable that I bet the guy couldn't live 5 minutes without being bothered. Yeah. So I had this, like, even though I was pretty young, I understood it, but I also went from being a fan to not so much anymore.
Huh. Yeah, I would be the same way.
And so what happened was it reshaped as I started to meet people as a professional wakeboarder, I knew that I had a small window to make an impression on people. And my dad taught me the saying, like, it takes only a few seconds to make a first impression and a lifetime to undo a bad one. Yeah. Right. And so it was in that moment that he changed my perspective. And though I understood, I was like, I'm not so much a fan anymore. So that as I've been meeting people, throughout the years, sometimes maybe you're tired or you just got off a long flight or took the red eye or you just, whatever it may be. I try to have that in the back of my mind. Like, no matter how you're feeling, this is like maybe this person's only moment to meet you. And so, like, it truly, I'm not making it up, like Andre the Giant reshaped that for me.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start things out with outdoor research. I've been using OR products since I moved to Seattle almost 25 years ago because they outperform everything on the market. I mean, they build their products to perform in the wet and soggy cold weather of the Pacific Northwest. And when you live where we do, you need to have the best in class While OR has always been known for building industry-leading gear for mountaineers, skiers, and snowboarders, they've gone all in on an award-winning bike line that FreeHub describes as outdoor research has once again raised the bar, offering riding gear that's not just functional but also stylish and durable. That meticulous design and thoughtful engineering of the Freewheel collection have the power to transform the mountain biking experience. So high praise, and Outdoor Research is doing a lot of things on the athlete side. While they launched with an incredible team, they had the Van Steenbergen brothers, Georgia Astley. This year, they've added Casey Brown, Carson Storch, and others. And between the athletes and the events they support, while OR might be new to the bike world, they've always lived it, and there's not many brands doing what OR is doing in the world of bike. To see the new products and what the hype is all about, head on over to OutdoorResearch.com. My final sponsor is Stanley, the iconic Northwest brand that invented the category of keeping things hot and cold over 100 years ago. You remember Stanley from your grandfather's green thermos that kept his coffee hot forever when he took you out on adventures. Well, Stanley still makes that bottle and so much more. Think tumblers, water bottles, barware, camping utensils, coolers, vacuum bottles. There really is something for everyone at Stanley. And between the unique colors and the collaborations that Stanley's doing, there really is something for everyone in the Stanley line. And they're not going to gouge you with crazy prices. Stanley is the originator, and they pride themselves on providing you and me with the best products at the best value. And that value gets even better when you shop with my code. To use it, head on over to Stanley1913.com, go shopping, and buy a ton of stuff because, like I said, this code is 30% off. It's the best deal that Stanley offers. And when you check out, enter the code capital P-O-W-E-L-L. That's Powell 2025. So no spaces in between that. Capital P-O-W-E-L-L 2025. That's where you get your code. Thank you very much for the support, Stanley. They make the best gear in the world. You've seen them everywhere. And if you don't have one, you definitely need one. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast.
Another person that reshaped your perspective on being an athlete or just how accessible wakeboarding is Darin Shapiro. Because when you were like 14 years old, you went and like stayed at his house and he taught you how to wakeboard, right? Like that shit wouldn't happen today. No one could call you up and be like, Shaun, I want to pay you and I want to stay on your couch and teach me how to wakeboard.
It was crazy because my buddy went and he goes, I got Darin Shapiro's number, and I went to his camp, in air quotes. And I was like, I want to go. I've seen this guy on TV and I want to learn to do some more flips. And so I went down to Florida thinking I'm going to this. I grew up going to like summer camps, different, whatever it was, Boy Scouts, church camps. And like you go to camps and there was cafeterias and all these.
Cabins and chores and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was in his condo and I slept on his pull-out couch. Like that's what it was. And legit, he's like, hey, take my new puppy named Scud, because that was his nickname.
Scud missile times, I guess.
Exactly. Yep. And he had this puppy and I was supposed to take it out, and I tried to take it out at night. It pooped on the ground. I felt all bad. I'm like cleaning the carpet in the middle of the night. And that was my experience of feeling embarrassed there. But I went there and hung out and wakeboarded with him for 2 days. But that absolutely changed what my understanding of towed water sports was. He taught me how to actually properly jump the wake and do what we call load the line and really use the physics of wakeboarding. And so I spent 2 days learning how to jump the wake. I thought I was going to go there and do all sorts of new spins and flips and the Rayleigh, that's the Superman thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't. The last like 2 minutes, he goes, all right, try the Rayleigh. And I did, and it didn't quite work out. But when I went home, the sport changed for me. And that was when I was like 15, I think 15 years old, maybe 14, somewhere in there. But at that point, my understanding completely changed. And that's when I really started to spend a lot more time on what at that time was called a ski board, not even a wakeboard.
Okay. And then it was like, becomes like the Skirfer, or was that first? Or?
Skirfer first, then ski board, then wakeboard.
Okay. Yeah. And then you're water skiing throughout. Like when you went to college, you were like on the water ski team in college and you did stuff like that. And then you were kind of like the first person ever to water ski on a wakeboard in a water ski contest in college, right?
Yeah. I upset a couple people. I got more people excited probably than upset, but
old school heads, like it was probably like skiing and snowboarding. Like they were like, look at these punk kids who are
100%.
Messing with our sport.
100%. Yep. But it was because my ski coach, he called me into his office and he goes, look at the rule book. It says if your trick ski is 1/3 as wide as it is long, it qualifies. He measured my wakeboard with a tape measure and he goes, ride this at the next contest. And I did. upset some people, but a lot of people were like stoked on it. So
you knew you were going to upset people going into it. You knew you were going to shake everything up, and the future kind of changed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that maybe that changed the future, but at that contest, I'm sure a lot of kids are looking like, hey man, maybe we want to start standing sideways instead of doing what our parents did.
yeah.
That's huge for you. And then while you're in college, I think there's some contests. I think there was like a contest where you went to Portland and you ended up getting 5th place. You end up on Hyperlight there. Then you go back to college and you're taking classes, and it gets to the point where you're like, Dad, I want to take a semester off of school. What do your folks say to that? Are they like 100% behind you? Or are they like, I don't know about this. Why don't you get your degree and then figure it out? Or how did that work?
That's exactly, I'm impressed with of you recalling this, because that's exactly what happened. I was at college. I was finishing my first year, and this guy saw me compete, and he actually introduced himself as the editor of Wakeboard magazine. He said, you should compete on the tour. So that summer I did. And I went back into school after that season on tour. At the end of that season, it was the second last tour stop. I did make it into the finals in Portland. And then the following weekend, I came here to Seattle and signed my first contract with Hyperlight, 1995. So this is 30 years I've been with them.
That is incredible.
And so it was right here. And
have you been with them longer than Greg Nelson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Greg started Double Up and a bunch of those. So what happened was I went back into school. And while I was going into school, I was training for the world competition coming up in the fall. And when I was trying to figure out, can I do school and wakeboarding at the same time? And I was struggling. And that's where I went to my dad and I said, hey, can I take a semester next semester? So it would be like the spring semester. I'll get ready for the tour season. And can I just take some time off school? I just said the blanket statement. Can I step away from school? My dad said, you get one semester, but we're going to write goals down. And if you don't achieve those goals at the end of that tour, so it'd be the next fall, you're back into school.
Fair.
Said, all right, let's see if I can make a go at this. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I went and lived on my buddy's back porch for a little while. Eventually had my own room with carpet. That was like an upgrade. And just kind of got to the end of that tour season. I met all of those goals and surpassed some of them. And so I was like, Dad, can I take another semester off? He goes, yeah, let's write more goals down. So we did. And it was things like, getting 10th overall on the tour, get top 3. It was really just trying to give ourselves and myself something to go after to say, is this working? And if it didn't, we'll get back into school. And so my dad pitches to me like, if you hit these goals, then we'll go another semester and see how it goes, another tour season and see what happens. But if not, you're going right back into school. Because he knew, like, once you're out of school, it's pretty tough to go back.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's like, so we're going to set some hard lines. And if you don't reach these goals, you're going back to school.
Did you have to work and have real job, or not real jobs, just doing side jobs and stuff to have some money? Or did your parents help fund it? Or how'd that work out for you?
So I picked up Hyperlight as a sponsor, like at the end of that season, and I started to get a small check from them.
Enough to dirtbag it, I guess?
Yeah, it was enough that I could go pay rent. Like I was literally paying like $165 a month for this corner of a back porch. And so I just kind of weaned myself off of my parents and just started to save up enough. And it was about, I think, a year and a half later that I had enough to put a down payment on a house. I'm still in the house. I've paid the thing off.
That's amazing. So you were able to do well pretty fast in the grand scheme of things, where a lot of people that come through this podcast struggled for a few years. And given you were probably second wave. If Darin and those guys are the first wave, are you second wave?
Yeah.
And how many people in the second wave are still going?
I don't think much of anyone, you know, like Parks Bonifay, a good friend of mine, he's still like in the sport and he's doing his thing. But most of the guys, like I've watched a lot of people kind of come in and then take off. So I'm very grateful that I'm still here.
Well, I think just in the way that you've carried yourself and built your career and built your brand, I think from the beginning, it was like you were self-funding yourself, going boat show to boat show, letting everybody know who you were. It's like, hey, it's not just like Hyperlight's going to pay me and I might get an ad somewhere. It's like, I'm going to get myself everywhere and everybody in this industry is going to know who I am. And then when I win something, they're going to be like, yeah, we know that guy. And was that kind of the goal, was just to make sure everybody knows my name?
You know, I think it was just, if I had an opportunity in front of me, I would go after it.
Okay.
You know, like you said, like going to a boat show, just paying for myself to get there in the first place. And then eventually, like, they want to get behind you. And that's kind of what I tell people, is that they'll come to me, and you probably deal with the same thing. People are like, hey, I want to get sponsored. How do I get sponsored? Well, if you are asking like, how do you get sponsored? then you need to go back to your craft. Because what you essentially want is you want more companies coming to you than you going to them.
Yes.
You want to be in the position where they want to know about you. You're not trying to sell yourself. So that's what I tell people, like, especially don't make it about getting sponsored. You want to just be so good at what you do and you want to enjoy what you're doing to the point where people go, we want to be part of that.
Yeah. Or other people want to make you do better. Like, God, this kid's so good. And I know these guys, I've got to tell these guys about this kid because he's so good.
Yes.
And that helps as well.
100%.
But yeah, talent definitely does it. But I will say, especially in this social media day and age, that you can go lobby, self-promote, and get yourself some sponsors. You're not going to have a 30-year career doing that unless you keep getting better and better and better. But you can get in the door that way these days, where when you started, it was all about show me what you've got. And your 30-second tape or whatever you're going to send was all that those guys had to see of you. And they made a decision based off that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had the magazines. We had the three outlets for us were print, so magazines, videos, so you could have free ride parts, and then contests. And I liked them all. And in fact, that's when I really started to learn that I liked video editing. So my first instructional video was on VHS.
Okay, wow. So you've been doing that for a long, long time.
A long time.
And when you think about those three pillars of the sport, because they're the three pillars of every sport, and like if you look at like what you want to hang your hat on in a career, sure, there's contest wins, but that's where you get people to know about you, but that's not where you build your legacy. You build your legacy in video parts, and people see that. And then covers are great to have as well. So it's three different areas. First, what's the most important cover that you've had, and how many covers do you think you've had over the years?
I don't know. I have a folder on my computer of the different covers, and it's maybe like 5 or 6 just on Wakeboard magazine, but then there's Water Ski magazine and Alliance magazine, and I was on Boys Life. I was in like a lot of different things, but there's a couple really iconic ones. One was the mirror reflection one. That was an unintentional cover shot.
Okay.
I told my buddy, Joey Maddock, I said, let me just see how close I can get my nose to the water. I just want a photo of this, and then we'll go about our normal shoot. And it happened to be a perfect reflection that day. And we shot, and he never would grab his computer and look at photos in my house, but he goes, dude, you got to come see this. And we look and couldn't believe it. And so we pitched it to the magazine. They ran it, and it's become like one of the most well-known cover shots in the sport. But the one that I worked the hardest on, it was the last cover I had, because they stopped making Wakeboard magazine. It's the second to last magazine that they ever produced. But the short version of the story is, in Australia, I saw the boat wake hit a wall. It was a bridge support.
Okay.
And it went so close, it made this wave that ran up the wall.
Like a wall ride?
Totally. And I look and I go, this is when I was competing. I was going into a contest run, and like, sure, I should be focusing on my contest, but I look at this wave hit the wall, and I'm looking at the judges in the boat. I go, did anybody see that? Do you guys just see that? I've never seen this before. So we looked at it afterward, and we went past it, and I was like, man, now I'm on the hunt to find a wall, like somewhere that I can do it. And I found it in Alabama.
Huh.
And it was literally a barge that was on the side of the river. So they use them as shipping containers. And I drove up there on a road trip with a videographer, a photographer, a buddy to drive. Like, we went up there, and it just wasn't working like I had hoped. But we just worked at it, and eventually did this wall ride that I rode all the way up this steel wall, did just like this tail slide. It was kind of like a 5-0 up on the top, and then drop back in. It was like one of the, it gives me goosebumps just to talk, because it was like a fight for me. That I saw something on the other side of the earth, and then like I went and put this thing together, but it didn't want to work out, but it worked out.
A battle like that, and then you get a cover out of it as well.
Yeah, it was like,
that's pretty amazing. Then when you think of your video part that had the most impact on the sport, what would that be?
Man, I'm pretty old. There's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, no, in the early days, I would think is when it has the biggest impact.
Yeah.
You're old enough to where a lot of the tricks probably didn't exist.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing is, like, tricks are still being invented, but it was at such its infancy that we're like, well, what else can you do? And then something else happens.
I mean, you've probably got 10 tricks that you've named, I would think. Right?
Yeah. Some are after my names or just random names. But I think one of the most iconic parts would probably be in the video Mayday. That was from Lake Powell.
Okay. Yeah, I know of that video.
Just a beautiful, beautiful video, great stories, a beautiful spot, I should say. And really fun to be part of that. We had some conflict on it and whatever.
That's probably why I know it, I think.
Yeah.
You had saved somebody's lives or something like that.
Yeah, that one we went and helped these people that got, it was a pretty serious situation. It was why it was called Mayday. There's another one called Pre-Pop. That was one of my favorites to produce. But I think Counterfeit This was one of the cooler video parts. And then one of the coolest things that we were ever part of was the intro, and I think it was to counterfeit this, where we had one boat drive through and then everybody hit the same boat roller to do a double up, one after another after another. And it was this thing that we practiced. Like we choreographed this for days, and then it was like, go.
You guys get it first try?
We did.
Nice.
We did.
Because that would be a nightmare if you didn't.
Yes, that was super sick. And later in that video, I rode behind an airplane, literally got picked up off the water, was dangling, like flying, and then got set back down, almost got knocked out, but it was so worth it.
Dude, insane. So now that you're 49 years old, do you take that kind of risk anymore, or do you kind of shelve that?
I mean, I do find myself in positions going like, what am I doing right now? Well, just stay focused. Like I do have kids, like I do, I got a wife, but I do tend to push it a little bit. Like when I go snowboarding, I go fast.
Yeah.
I like to go fast. Like I got this watch that'll clock me, and I've almost got to 60.
Damn.
I like to go quick.
Yeah, that's fast. And yeah, you don't want to catch an edge.
No, don't do that, guys. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's not what I did.
And let's see, how many pro products do you think you've had over the years?
I don't know. I'm working on right now my 30th pro model graphic.
That is incredible.
Yeah. So I've been with Hyperlight for 30 years. My first pro model was in 97. And the funny story from that, this kid, he asked me, he was like a 12-year-old kid. And he goes, when was your first wakeboard? I said, my first board I ever rode or my first pro model? He said, your first pro model. And I said, it was in 97. And he goes, like the 1900s?
That's what my kid said. He's like, the 19s, Dad?
I'm like, come on, man. And I kind of tilted my head for a second. I'm like, yeah, actually the 1900s, y'all are saying that now.
I mean, I get it all the time. He's like, was that in the 19s? I'm like, it sure was in the 19s. But I like to count the 90s.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I've had a pro model with them since 97. So we're working on my 2027 graphic. That's crazy. I've had Jet Pilot signature vests. Back in the day, I had a Sky Supreme signature boat at one point.
No way.
Yeah.
Did you ever get signature wakeboard pants? Was that Jet Pilot that did those?
I never had Siggy pants.
Okay,
no.
just checking.
Yeah. I mean, I wore them one time and it was in a magazine, but yeah, one time.
All right. Well, now we're at a part in the show where, because we're not really doing a full-on interview, we're just kind of shooting the shit here, and we've got this event going on. But I end every show with something that I call Inappropriate Questions. It's where I ask 3 questions, and they can be anything. And usually I get someone that to ask 3 questions, but I didn't do it this time.
That's fine.
So I know I just have had too much shit going on. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. You're okay with it. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to make up the 3 questions myself, because that's easy to do. And thinking about you're 49 years old, and when you were younger, you were probably a little bit more party guy than you are now. I mean, we all grow up and we all change. And that's why we're here with Best Day.
Yeah.
We're not really drinking. I mean, I still drink beer, but I drink a lot of Best Day as well.
Yeah.
And in your younger days, when you're traveling the road with like Parks and Danny Harf and all those dudes, because I was on the rollerblade tour kind of back then.
Yeah.
And so you guys all rollerbladed back in the day. I don't want to say you, because
I did. I broke my arm on a half pipe.
But a lot of you guys, so we'd all see each other at gravity games in like Ohio. Yeah. And we'd end up in a hotel room that would be cloudy with something in it or whatever.
Right.
But what's the craziest thing you saw on tour with those guys?
Oh man. I'd say like the rental cars just got haggard. I think one of the craziest was the car coming into the parking lot, sliding sideways so hard that the tires came off the rims.
No.
And at that point, like, what do you do? You know, like that was probably where I was just like, all right, this is getting loose. Like, and this is like not an empty parking lot. Like this is just guys that are just getting super loose. And I just remember like the cars getting pushed. I would drive fast and I'd probably pull that e-brake a little bit more than once, and that's when you know, like when you're renting the car and you ask the rental agent, you're like, does it have a handbrake or is it a foot brake?
Yeah.
But you eventually learn to pump the foot brake to get it to
go. But they should know when you're asking if like what that means if you're under a certain age.
Yeah. But I'd say there was definitely some rental car repairs last minute. That would be some of the things that got pushed.
All right. Question number 2. Who in wakeboarding had the worst ad campaign of all time, where you just open the magazine and you're like, man, they just burnt $20,000?
G-bolts. I mean, it was actually a pretty good product. It was the screws, like the washers and the fasteners to hold your boards together, like bindings and fins and everything on there. And there was this one ad where there was a girl in a bathtub. Like, I think she wasn't wearing anything other than all of these fasteners just covering her. It was just in there. I was like, I mean, there's some things that are like blatantly overly sexual. And it was this. So I was like, that is just like a burn of money. Like, come on. There's those. I mean, there were some that you know that the people on the other side, you probably saw it in snowboarding where they have no idea, like, is it a legit grab or is the person not grabbing? And you're like, the person running that marketing campaign has no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when it sucks because they're putting a ton of money into this. And like these guys will go out there and film for a week, you know, and getting photos. And you guys would hike backcountry and then they just blow it because the person who's that last link in the chain and they just don't know, they think it looks good because you can see the base graphic or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so there's definitely those.
And your final inappropriate question, what's the worst product that you ever put out where you're just like, oh man, I can't believe I put this out with my name on it?
Oh man. Yeah. There were some bindings back in the day. And the thing is like, you don't always necessarily get to okay it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's late in the game, there were some bindings, I'd say it was probably like early 2000s that they just looked terrible. They worked terrible. They didn't make it a year. Like they barely made it a year.
Did your friends clown you?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're nice binding.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're like, what am I going to do at this point?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, that is Inappropriate Questions. That's our podcast. We are going to spend a lot of time tomorrow, but I thank you for coming here today and sharing a little bit about your story and talking about wakeboarding and all the other different stuff that we talked about. And have a great night at dinner, and I'll see you tomorrow, man.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you.
So that was time with Tate Huffard and Shaun Murray, and two really cool stories. In Tate's, he mortgages his future into a dream, and it's working out with Best Day. And you know what? Shaun Murray did the exact same thing. He mortgaged his future to go wakeboarding and leave college, and it all worked out for him. So both parts of this podcast is a lesson that if you believe in yourself and your vision and you go all in, well, it can work out and be greater than you possibly could imagine. I'm sure there's the failure sides of people that didn't make it, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about the success stories, and here are two of them. I mean, think about it. Shaun Murray is getting his 30th pro model. And when I think of athletes and brands, Scott Schmidt's probably been with North Face for longer than Shaun Murray's been at Hyperlight. But outside of those two, I can't think of an athlete and sponsor relationship that goes that deep and that long, but who knows, there's probably plenty of others. That's the podcast. At this point, please review me wherever you listen and share my social posts. It really does help the podcast grow. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for listening. And thank you for supporting my incredible sponsors. They really do make this thing happen week in and week out. I'm talking about Elan Skis, Stanley, Outdoor Research, Best Day Brewing, and Liquid Force. Have a great week, everyone.